My Life and Ethiopia's Progress, Chapter 31. The Italians engage in deceitful propaganda activities with Ras Haylu and cause the escape of Ledj Iyasu from Fitch. Ras Haylu is the son of King Tekle Hymenot of Gojam. When King Tekle Hymenot was still called Ledj Adal, he married Waziri Lakech, a relative of Emperor Tekle Georgis, who reigned in 1861, which is 1868 in the Gregorian calendar, and then received the title of Ras. Later on, after Emperor Johannes had succeeded to the throne in 1864, which is 1872 Gregorian calendar, he gave him the crown and proclaimed him King of Gojam in 1873, which is 1881 Gregorian calendar. King Tekle Hymenot had other sons called Ras Bezebe and Dejach Beleo. After the death of King Tekle Hymenot, Emperor Menelik assigned the governorship of Gojam to Ras Haylu, but at that time he was called Dejazmach Seyum. However, from the beginning, all his activities had been of a deceitful nature, since he meant to bring about the downfall of his father's officers. He caused imitations of their seals to be engraved, and then wrote messages suggesting that they were betraying Emperor Menelik. When he submitted these to Emperor Menelik, the officers denied having done anything of this sort. When, as a consequence of their protests, the matter was investigated, it was revealed to his disgrace that he had treacherously caused the fictitious seals to be engraved. He was therefore condemned to imprisonment, but after he had remained in Afkira for 7 years, Emperor Menelik in his goodness released him from prison and restored to him once again the governorship of Gojam. He subsequently married Empress Taitu's niece, Waziri Aselefech, and in honor of the wedding in 1901, which is 1908-1909 Gregorian calendar, he received the title of Ras. He then gave up the name Seyum and adopted the name Haylu. Ledj Iyasu, entirely at the request of his father King Mikhail, married Ras Haylu's daughter, Waziri Sebelwangel. Ras Haylu used to prepare a fine welcome for all the Italians passing through Gojam and to give them an escort. Apart from this, he pretended to be ill and used to travel to and fro to the Italian commercial agents and doctors resident at Deceit or Gondar. The Italians who were appointed as resident commercial agents at Gondar, Deceit, and Magalo used to be selected for their medical training. The reason was that by being able to meet district governors and the people in the course of medical work, they were conveniently in a position to carry on their deceitful propaganda. We never ceased suspecting all these Italian activities, but on one hand, we were mindful of our treaty obligations, and on the other, we felt that if we forbade the people living in the districts which had an agent to go to the agency for medical treatment, the Italians would accuse us before the world, claiming that we were impeding civilization. We therefore waited patiently until we discovered major evidence of these activities. Later on, when Italy made energetic requests to establish a consulate in Gojam, we granted her permission, as it seemed to us proper to honor the treaty of friendship. She subsequently set up the consulate. The reason for which customarily a request was made to appoint a consul was that subjects of the applicant power were resident in the area concerned and were engaged in commerce there. But Italy did not possess a single subject or merchant, be he white or black, at Debra Marcos, and thus everybody was aware that it was for propaganda purposes only. There, in the consulate compound, the consul established a clinic, and the notables and the people of Gojam went there for medical treatment. We did not suspect that Ras Haylu had any thought that the government of Ethiopia should be abolished and become Italian. But after some lapse of time, we finally heard that the Italians were telling him that If he were to cause the escape of Ledj Iyasu from his place of detention, he, Ras Haylu, would, when Ledj Iyasu became emperor, be proclaimed at least king of Gojam, his father's governorate, and possibly even king of Gojam and Begemede. His daughter would in that case become queen consort. They further told him that the Italian government would assist him in everything he required in bringing this about, and in any difficulties he might encounter. This piece of advice by the Italians had entered deeply into Ras Haylu's heart, and he was waiting for a suitable moment to attempt this project. He therefore came to our coronation to Addis Ababa and stayed for about 2 years. And meanwhile, he began scheming in secret, with the help of money and by all other means at his disposal, to bring about the escape of Ledj Iyasu from his place of detention at Fiche. The deceitful plan which had been devised for this was as follows. When Ledj Iyasu had escaped from detention at Fiche, he was to cross the Mugir and meet Ras Haylu at Mecha. He was then to cross the Blue Nile at Gendebarat or some other convenient spot. And when he reached Debre Marcos, he was to issue a proclamation about his emperorship and at once to install Ras Haylu as king of Gojam. From there, he was to cross into Wallo by way of Begemede, and when at Desi, he was to assemble by mobilization decree the armies of Gojam, Begemede, Semien, Tigre, and Yaju. He was then to go on to Shoa, and after fighting with us, was to enter Addis Ababa. If it were perchance to happen that this plan of Ras Haylu should come to grief, he had spoken to the Italians about an aeroplane, so that Ledj Iyasu might conveniently and quickly cross into Gojam by aeroplane. When a certain Baron Franchetti, before departing from Asmara, requested permission through his legation to land in a large field situated between Addis Alem and the town of Genet, because there was no sufficiently large field at Addis Ababa on account of the size of his aeroplane in which he was traveling, and which he had 4 engines. We had no suspicion of any connection with the affairs of Ledj Iyasu or Ras Haylu, and granted him permission to land near Addis Alem. But the secret was the plan to engineer an escape of Ledj Iyasu, for Mecha was near Addis Alem. When the aeroplane arrived, many people who had gone to receive it noticed that inside it were machine guns as well as rifles and many cartridges. After it had remained there in the vicinity of Addis Alem for about 10 days, it requested once more authority to move to a field near Addis Ababa, where the radio station is situated nowadays. We granted this permission. Only later on was it revealed that the purpose of this was to take Ras Haylu from Addis Ababa to arrange a convenient meeting with Ledj Iyasu. However, God's designs prevail over those of man, and the plan by which Ledj Iyasu was to escape from Fetche went wrong, and there occurred a delay in his getaway and in issuing any information about his escape. Hence, Baron Franchetti, after waiting for a whole month without news of Ledj Iyasu, returned to Asmara with his aeroplane on the 8th of Genbot 1924, which is the 16th of May 1932 Gregorian calendar. On the 4th day after Franchetti's return to Asmara, Ledj Iyasu escaped from Fetche, and when he reached Yaya Gulale, he sent a letter to Ras Haylu. I have escaped, and now let us meet. But since all the arrangement Ras Haylu had previously made had gone awry, he was not prepared and quickly dispatched the headman of Gendabarat to acquire some 50 horses for him. Ledj Iyasu had sent letters not only to Ras Haylu, but also to other chiefs. Since Ras Haylu meant to pretend that he had not been involved in the matter, and thus to escape blame by seductive words, he showed us the letter which had reached him from Ledj Iyasu and claimed, Ledj Iyasu wrote to me in order to seduce me by a ruse, But I have no master or king other than Emperor Haile Selassie, and you are bound to recognize that I am loyal to your government. But Ledj Iyasu's escape and Ras Haylu's involvement in the entire affair had already been widely rumored at Addis Ababa, and many indications were discovered which proved his involvement in the matter. When his briefcase, which was in his servant's hand, was found, and when its contents were examined, the code by which he corresponded with Ledj Iyasu was discovered to his discomfiture, as well as other signs mutually known only to these two. When the man whom Ras Haylu had sent to purchase horses was seized and interrogated, he gave evidence against him and confessed that Ras Haylu had instructed him, "When you have bought the horses and met Ledj Iyasu and heard what he has to say to you, come back." But in the end, the Ras confessed and said, "It is true that I have done all this, for Satan misled me. Only you in your goodness can do mercy unto me." A week later, he came before the court for judgment to be given, when the judges unanimously condemned him to death. But we commuted the sentence of death and arranged that he should stay, with his property confiscated, in confinement at a specified place. When Ledj Iyasu had waited for some time for Ras Haylu in the Mecha and Gendabarat regions, he heard of his arrest and imprisonment. Thereupon, he crossed the Blue Nile and when they remained a journey of only 2 days before entering Debre Marcos, the people of Gojam seized him and handed him over to Dejach Desta Damtav, whom he had dispatched for this purpose. In 1909, which is 1916 in the Gregorian calendar, when Ledj Iyasu was deposed, the Italians had manifested their opposition to him and had spoken to us in this sense. But now they pretended to be friendly towards him and aided his escape from Fitchi. This proves that they were devising plans to take Ethiopia by provoking us to fight each other, while they themselves would not have a single soldier killed in the battle.